In this lesson, we'll be talking about render mask. For this lesson, I'll be using the same scene from the lesson which we discussed, bucket image sampler, which was the second lesson of this section. So let's open up our render settings and start discussing render mask. As always, set your UI switcher to expert so we can see all the options, even though we don't need to do that in this case. Render mask allows you to determine which pixel of the image you would like to be rendered based on the different criteria that you can define. By default, it's set to none, so everything will be rendered. Next, we have texture. When set to texture, you can define a black and white map. The black pixels won't be rendered, and anything other than black will be rendered. In order to define a texture, click on this None button. Choose bitmap, and let's select BW29 as our map. Before rendering the scene, let's go to the GI tab and make sure brute force is the primary and secondary GI engine. Get back to the V-Ray tab and render the scene. As you can see, the texture has been used as a mask and only the pixels other than black are rendered. Next, we have selected. In this mode, only currently selected objects are rendered. This mode is very useful. Imagine you are working on a shader for a specific object and you would like to isolate and only render that particular object. In this situation, this mode can be very useful. Even though you would only render that object, but V-Ray still calculates the entire scene and you can see the effects of other objects on your selected object. Or if you want to re-render an object without changing anything else, this selected mode can be the solution. Okay, let me first clear the current frame buffer. And let's select the desk here and render the scene. And as you can see, only the desk is being rendered, but we still can see the effect of the rest of the scene on our desk. Let me clear the frame buffer again. Next, we have include exclude, which lets you make a list of all the objects you want to be rendered. So if I click on this include button, I can select a few objects here, add them to the include list, and now if I press render, only those objects will be rendered. Now let's clear our frame buffer again. We have layers, which only renders objects that belong to the currently selected layer, and object IDs, which renders only objects with specified object IDs. So if I select this lamp, for example, here, and let's right click on it and select object properties, and we can set the 4 as its object ID and press OK, and then put 4 in the object IDs here and press render. Only the objects with object ID of 4 will be in the render. So that's about render mask. We are done with image sampling and I will see you in the next section.